The mocking of mankind. The Kepler Prime Military Academy floated in the neutral zone between three galactic empires, a massive structure of crystalline towers and reinforced alloy that caught starlight from 7 different suns. Built as a symbol of unity after the Great Convergence War, it now served as the training ground for the galaxy's most promising military minds. Every major species in the Galactic Council sent their best candidates here, hoping to forge alliances and learn from ancient warrior cultures. Lieutenant Maya Chen adjusted her uniform as she walked through the Academy's central corridor. At 26, she was one of humanity's youngest representatives, selected from thousands of applicants after Earth had finally been granted provisional membership in the Galactic Council just 3 years ago. Her black hair was tied in a regulation bun, and her hazel eyes scanned the corridor with the alertness of someone who had learned to always watch her surroundings. The corridor was alive with activity. Zephyrians glided past on their tentacle-like lower appendages, their crystalline bodies humming with bioelectric energy. A pair of Thraxian warriors stomped by, their exoskeletons clicking with each heavy step. Luminescent ethereals floated overhead, their gaseous forms contained within specialized environmental suits. Among them all, Maya stood out not for any remarkable physical trait, but for her apparent ordinariness. Another day in paradise, she muttered to herself, sidestepping a group of chattering Nexeri, whose compound eyes followed her movement with undisguised curiosity. The Academy's ranking system was supposedly merit-based, but everyone knew the unspoken truth. Physical prowess counted for more than tactical brilliance, and natural abilities were valued above learned skills. Humans, with their soft skin, limited strength, and lack of natural weapons or defenses, were considered barely above the category of protected species. They were allowed to attend the Academy more as a diplomatic courtesy than out of any real expectation of military contribution. Maya entered the tactical analysis classroom, where holographic star charts flickered above each workstation. She took her usual seat near the back, ignoring the whispered comments from nearby cadets. After months at the Academy, she had developed a thick skin against the constant jibes and dismissive attitudes. "Greetings, soft skin," rumbled a deep voice behind her. Maya didn't need to turn around to identify the speaker. Commander Krextar of the Vortanian Empire had made it his personal mission to remind humans of their place in the galactic hierarchy. The Vortanian was an imposing figure, standing nearly 9 feet tall with scaled purple skin that could deflect small arms fire. 4 muscular arms ended in hands tipped with retractable claws, and his elongated head housed 3 sets of eyes that could see across multiple spectrums. As the senior combat instructor and a decorated war hero from the Siege of Andromeda, his word carried significant weight at the Academy. Maya turned slowly, meeting his primary eyes with steady calm. "Good morning, Commander Krextar. I trust you're well." The Vortanian's secondary eyes narrowed, a sign of amusement or contempt. With his species, it was often hard to tell the difference. Still maintaining that human optimism. "I see. How quaint. Tell me, Lieutenant Chen, have you reconsidered your application for the Advanced Combat Program?" Several nearby cadets stopped their conversations to listen. Maya's application had become something of a running joke among the alien students. No human had ever been accepted into the elite program, which focused on frontline combat tactics and advanced warfare scenarios. "My application stands, Commander," Maya replied evenly. "I believe I've demonstrated." Krextar's laughter boomed across the classroom, a sound like grinding stones. "Demonstrated? What have you demonstrated except your species' remarkable ability to absorb punishment? Your simulation scores are achieved through trickery and luck, not true combat capability." Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks, but maintained her composure. "With respect, Commander, my tactical scores are in the top 5% of my class. My hand-to-hand combat assessments are conducted against training drones programmed to human limitations." Krextar interrupted, his 4 arms gesturing dismissively. "Put you against a real opponent, and you'd crumble like dried leaves. Humans are meant for support roles, logistics, perhaps, or administrative duties. Leave the fighting to species actually evolved for it. The Vortanian turned to address the wider classroom, clearly enjoying his audience. The Galactic Council may have granted humans provisional membership, but we all know it was a political move, a gesture of inclusivity. In real combat, against a true warrior species, he flexed his claws meaningfully. Well, nature has already decided that outcome, hasn't it? Maya stood, her chair scraping against the floor. At 5 feet 8 inches, she barely reached the middle of Krextar's torso, but she held his gaze without flinching. Nature gave humans something more valuable than claws or armor, Commander. It gave us the ability to adapt, to learn, to overcome. That's how we survived on a planet that tried to kill us with everything from predators to plagues to ice ages. Pretty words, Krextar sneered. But combat isn't won with speeches. It's won with strength, speed, and the will to dominate, qualities your species notably lacks. The tension in the room was palpable. Even the instructor, Professor Zichtel, had stopped preparing her lesson to watch the exchange. Maya knew she was walking a dangerous line. Challenging a senior officer, especially one from a warrior culture like the Vortanians, could have serious consequences. But she was tired of the constant dismissal, the casual bigotry disguised as biological fact. Perhaps, Maya said carefully, the commander would be willing to provide a practical demonstration of these principles. I'm always eager to learn from experience. The room fell silent. Several cadets exchanged shocked glances. Had the human just challenged Krextar to a combat demonstration? Krextar's 3 sets of eyes focused on Maya with predatory intensity. His scaled lips pulled back to reveal rows of sharp teeth in what might have been a smile. Interesting. The human wants to play warrior. Very well, Lieutenant Chen. Tomorrow's combat assessment challenge will include a special demonstration. I'll personally show the Academy what happens when humans forget their place in the natural order. He leaned down, bringing his face close to Maya's. His breath smelled of ozone and metal. I hope your medical insurance is comprehensive. Soft skin. You'll need it. With that, he straightened and strode from the classroom, his heavy footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. Maya slowly sat back down, aware that every eye in the room was on her. "Are you insane?" whispered Cadet Thornfield from behind her. James Thornfield was one of the few other humans at the Academy, a lanky engineer from Mars Colony. Krextar once ripped the arm off a Nexari warrior just to prove a point about joint vulnerabilities. What were you thinking? Maya pulled up her workstation, her fingers steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through her system. I was thinking that I'm tired of being treated like a pet project. If they want to see what humans are capable of, I'll show them. By getting yourself killed. Thornfield hissed. Maya, this isn't Earth Defense Force training. These aliens don't pull their punches. Krextar especially. He's got a reputation for educational brutality. Maya glanced around the classroom. The alien cadets were all studiously avoiding eye contact, though she could see the way their various sensory organs tracked her movements. She was now the subject of intense speculation. Some were probably already placing bets on how long she'd last in the demonstration. Professor Zichtel finally cleared her throat, or whatever the equivalent was for her species' vocal apparatus. If we could return to today's lesson on multi-front engagement strategies. The rest of the class passed in a blur. Maya took notes mechanically, her mind already working through possibilities. She knew Krextar's reputation, had studied recordings of his combat demonstrations. He was brutal but predictable, relying on overwhelming force and intimidation. Like most Vortanians, he viewed combat as a dominance display first and a tactical exercise second. After class, Maya made her way to the human quarters, a small section of the Academy modified for Earth-standard atmosphere and gravity. She found the other 3 human cadets waiting for her in the common area. Besides Thornfield, there was Lieutenant Sarah Okafor from Nigeria, a communications specialist with a gift for xenolinguistics, and Ensign Kim Yujin from Korea, a tactical analyst with an eidetic memory. They all looked at Maya with a mixture of concern and disbelief. "Please tell me you have a plan," Okafor said without preamble. "Because right now, it looks like you just signed up to be Krekstar's punching bag in front of the entire academy." Maya dropped into a chair, finally allowing some of her tension to show. "He was never going to respect us anyway. At least this way, we get to choose the terms of engagement." "The terms being a public beating?" Kim asked, his usually calm demeanor cracked with worry. "Maya, I've run the numbers. Vortanians have 4 times our muscle density, reaction times 30% faster, and natural armor that can stop a knife blade. Plus, Krekstar is enhanced with military-grade augmentations." "I know the specs," Maya said quietly. "I've been studying them since day one." Thornfield leaned forward. "Then you know this is suicide." "Look, I get it. The constant disrespect, the casual racism disguised as biological reality. It gets to all of us. But there are better ways to prove ourselves than becoming a cautionary tale." Maya stood and walked to the window, looking out at the star field beyond. Somewhere out there was Earth, a small blue world that had produced a species everyone here considered inferior. But Earth had also produced Aikido and Judo, martial arts specifically designed for smaller, weaker opponents to defeat larger, stronger ones. It had produced humans who had survived everything the universe could throw at them through cleverness, adaptability, and sheer stubborn refusal to give up. "They think we're weak because we don't have natural weapons," she said, still facing the stars. "Because we can't bench press a ground car or see an infrared. But human military history is full of examples of superior forces being defeated by inferior ones who fought smarter, not harder." She turned back to her fellow humans. "I've been practicing. Every night, after official training ends, the gym's gravity controls can be adjusted. Did you know that? I've been training at 3 times Earth gravity, working on speed and precision rather than strength." Okafor's eyes widened. "That's incredibly dangerous. If the administration found out." "They won't," Maya interrupted. "Because after tomorrow, they'll either be too busy reassessing their assumptions about humans, or," she shrugged, "well, it won't matter what a dead cadet was doing in her off hours." The room fell silent. Finally, Kim spoke up. "What do you need from us?" Maya smiled, the first genuine expression she'd shown since the confrontation. "Information. Everything you can find on Vortanian combat patterns, particularly Krekstar's previous demonstrations. And Thornfield, I need you to check the arena specifications, power settings, safety protocols, environmental controls, anything that might be relevant." "You're serious about this?" Okafor said. It wasn't a question. "Dead serious," Maya replied. "They want to see human limitations. Fine. But they're also going to see human potential. We didn't crawl out of the African savanna and spread across the galaxy by being anyone's punching bag." The next 24 hours passed in a blur of preparation. Maya spent every free moment reviewing combat footage, analyzing Vortanian body language, and running through scenarios in her mind. Her fellow humans worked tirelessly, gathering intelligence and offering suggestions. What they found was both encouraging and terrifying. Krekstar's demonstrations followed a pattern. He would always start with intimidation, circling his opponent while listing their species' weaknesses. Then would come the first attack, usually a backhanded slap designed to humiliate rather than seriously injure. It was a dominance display, meant to establish psychological superiority before the real combat began. But Maya also noticed something else. Krekstar, like many Vortanians, had a tell. Just before striking, his secondary eyes would dilate slightly, and his weight would shift to his rear leg. It was a fraction of a second warning, but for someone trained to observe and react, it might be enough. The morning of the combat assessment challenge, Maya woke before the artificial dawn. She went through her stretching routine, then meditated for 30 minutes, centering herself. Whatever happened today would change humanity's standing at the academy. She could only hope it would be for the better. The arena was packed when she arrived. Word had spread throughout the academy that a human had challenged Krextar, or been challenged by him, depending on who was telling the story. Species from across the galaxy had gathered to witness what most assumed would be a brief and brutal lesson in knowing one's place. Maya entered through the competitor's entrance, wearing the standard combat suit that did little to augment human capabilities. Across the arena, Krextar was already waiting, his massive form radiating confidence. He had chosen to wear ceremonial armor for the occasion, its polished surface reflecting the arena lights and making him appear even more imposing. As Maya walked toward the center of the arena, she caught sight of her fellow humans in the stands. They looked worried but determined, offering small nods of encouragement. Whatever happened next, she wouldn't face it alone. The arena's AI announced the beginning of the demonstration, its neutral voice carrying over the expectant murmur of the crowd. Maya took her position, facing Krextar across the combat circle. Her heart was racing, but her mind was clear. Everything she had trained for, everything she had learned about human potential and alien assumptions, had led to this moment. "Well, Lieutenant Chen," Krextar's voice boomed across the arena, "are you ready to learn your place in the Galactic Order?" Maya settled into a ready stance, her weight balanced, her breathing controlled. "I'm ready to learn, Commander." "The question is, are you?" The shattering of pride. The arena's environmental controls hummed to life, adjusting temperature and humidity to optimal levels for the demonstration. Overhead, massive displays showed bio-readings from both competitors: heart rate, adrenaline levels, muscle tension. The stark difference between Maya's human baseline and Krextar's enhanced Vortanian physiology was displayed for all to see. "Observe carefully, cadets," Krextar announced, beginning his traditional pre-combat circle around Maya. His four arms moved in elaborate gestures as he spoke, each movement designed to draw attention to his superior reach and strength. "This demonstration will illustrate the fundamental truth of combat. Biological superiority cannot be overcome by mere determination." Maya turned slowly, keeping Krextar in her sight. She had studied this ritual, knew it was designed to disorient and intimidate. The Vortanian's 3 sets of eyes allowed him to maintain visual lock while circle strafing, a natural advantage that had crushed the confidence of many opponents before the first blow was struck. "Note the human's limited field of vision," Krextar continued, his voice carrying the tone of a professor conducting a dissection. "Single-spectrum eyesight. No natural weapons. Reaction time measured in whole seconds rather than milliseconds. Fragile bone structure that shatters under minimal pressure." The audience watched with rapt attention. Many nodded along with Krextar's assessment, their own biological prejudices confirmed by the commander's authoritative presence. In the stands, a group of Zephyrian cadets exchanged knowing looks, their tentacles curling in what passed for smirks among their kind. Maya remained silent, her breathing steady. She had positioned herself carefully, noting the arena's lighting, the slight give in the floor material, the distance to the boundary markers. Every detail mattered. Every second of preparation could mean the difference between proving humanity's worth and confirming every stereotype about human weakness. In actual combat, Krextar continued, his circling pace increasing. A human's only hope would be to avoid engagement entirely. To run, to hide, to rely on technology or allies from superior species. But here, in this controlled environment, we can observe what happens when those options are removed. He stopped abruptly, directly in front of Maya. The sudden cessation of movement was another intimidation tactic, designed to startle. Maya didn't flinch, though she noted the subtle shift in his stance. His rear leg had taken more weight. His secondary eyes were beginning to dilate. "Tell me, Lieutenant Chen," Krextar said, his voice dropping to a conversational tone that somehow carried more menace than his earlier booming proclamations. "Do you know why the Galactic Council really admitted humanity?" Maya finally spoke, her voice calm and clear. "I assume you're about to tell me, Commander." A ripple of surprise went through the audience. The human's tone was respectful but unafraid, lacking the tremor most species exhibited when facing a Vortanian warrior at close range. Pity, Krextar said, drawing out the word. Pure, simple pity. Your species had reached the stars, achieved faster than light travel, made contact with the galactic community. To exclude you would have seemed cruel. So we opened our institutions to you, allowed you to play at being equals, knowing that eventually reality would assert itself. He raised one of his 4 arms, the gesture deliberately slow and theatrical. Reality such as this. Maya saw it all unfold in slow motion. The dilation of his secondary eyes reached its peak. His weight shifted fully to his rear leg. His raised arm began its descent. Not a fist, not a claw strike, but an open palm slap aimed at her face. The ultimate gesture of contempt, designed to humiliate rather than harm. She moved. To the audience, what happened next was almost too fast to follow. Maya's left hand shot up and out, intercepting Krextar's descending arm at the wrist. Her right hand clamped onto his forearm, creating a fulcrum point. Using the Vortanian's own momentum, she twisted her body, dropped her center of gravity, and applied precisely calculated pressure at exactly the right angle. The science of joint manipulation was universal. Physics cared nothing for species superiority or biological advantages. Leverage was leverage, and structural weak points existed in every skeletal system that had evolved to support vertical movement. The sound that echoed through the arena was sharp and distinct, the crack of breaking bone combined with the wet tear of separating cartilage. Krextar's wrist bent at an angle that anatomy never intended, his radius and ulna splintering under the torque of his own strength turned against him. The arena fell into absolute silence. Krextar stood frozen, staring at his mangled wrist in utter disbelief. His hand hung limp, purple blood beginning to seep between his scales. The bio-readings on the overhead displays spiked wildly, pain indicators flashing red, stress hormones flooding his system, his 3 hearts racing at dangerous speeds. Maya had already released his arm and stepped back into a defensive stance. The entire exchange had taken exactly 4 seconds. Then Krextar screamed. It wasn't a roar of anger or a battle cry. It was the sound of pure, shocked agony combined with the psychological devastation of having his worldview shattered as completely as his wrist. The mighty Vortanian warrior, veteran of a dozen campaigns, dropped to one knee, cradling his destroyed arm against his chest. The medical team rushed into the arena, their equipment already configured for Vortanian physiology. As they worked to stabilize the commander's injury, the audience erupted into chaos. "Impossible," shouted a Thraxian warrior from the upper stands. "The human must have cheated, used some kind of hidden weapon." "I saw it clearly," countered a Nexari analyst, her compound eyes capable of processing visual information at incredible speeds. "Pure technique. The human used the commander's own force against him." In the section reserved for academy instructors, Professor Zichtel leaned forward, her usually impassive features showing genuine interest. "Fascinating. The human anticipated not just the attack, but the specific type of attack. She prepared a counter designed for that exact scenario." Beside her, Admiral Vexthu of the Centauri fleet rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "More than that. Did you notice her stance? Her positioning? She manipulated the commander into attacking from that specific angle. The entire exchange was choreographed by her." Down in the arena, Maya remained in her defensive posture as the medical team worked on Krextar. She could feel the weight of hundreds of eyes on her, sensed the shift in the atmosphere. Shock was giving way to reassessment, disbelief to grudging respect. "Lieutenant Chin," the arena AI announced, its neutral tone cutting through the chaos. "Please remain in position for post-demonstration analysis." Maya straightened, but kept her hands visible and her posture non-threatening. She had made her point. Now was not the time for further provocation. Academy Director Zixval, an ancient ethereal whose gaseous form swirled with agitation, materialized in the center of the arena. "Order. I will have order." His voice, transmitted directly into the minds of all present, cut through the tumult like a blade. The noise subsided to a low murmur as the director floated between Maya and the medical team treating Krekstar. This demonstration has concluded. All cadets will return to their scheduled activities. A full review will be conducted. As the stands began to empty, Maya noticed many of the departing aliens taking one last look at her. The expressions varied: surprise, curiosity, respect, and in some cases, fear. She had done more than defend herself. She had shattered a fundamental assumption about human capability. Lieutenant Chen. Director Zixfol's mental voice focused on her alone. Report to my office in 1 hour. Bring your commanding officer's assessment files. Maya nodded, maintaining military bearing as she left the arena. As she passed through the competitor's exit, she found her fellow humans waiting for her. Thornfield looked like he had aged a year in the past 5 minutes. That was, he started, then stopped, shaking his head. Maya, what did you just do? What needed to be done? Maya replied, finally allowing herself to relax slightly. Her hands were shaking now, adrenaline crash setting in. They wanted to see human limitations. I showed them human potential. Okafor stepped forward, her dark eyes shining with a mix of pride and concern. You realize this changes everything, right? Every assumption about humans at this academy, every policy based on our supposed physical inferiority. You just threw it all into question. Good, Maya said simply. It's about time. Ensign Kim, ever the analyst, was already pulling up his datapad. The bio readings were fascinating. Your neural response time peaked at 0.003 seconds. That's faster than most enhanced species. How? Maya smiled tiredly. Training, anticipation, and understanding that strength isn't always about muscle mass or natural weapons. Humans have survived by being smart, by turning disadvantages into advantages. Our ancestors faced predators with fangs and claws, and they won with spears and strategy. As they walked back to the human quarters, Maya could see other cadets watching them from a distance. The looks were different now, calculating, reassessing. Word was spreading through the academy at faster-than-light speeds. An hour later, Maya stood before Director Zixfol's desk in his office high above the academy. The room was designed to accommodate multiple species' environmental needs, with sections of different atmospheres contained within invisible fields. Through the transparent walls, the star field stretched endlessly. Sit, Lieutenant, the director said, his gaseous form condensing slightly to approximate a humanoid shape. Maya took the offered chair, noting that it had been adjusted to human proportions. You've created quite a situation, Zixfol continued. Commander Krekstar is in medical bay. His wrist will heal, but his pride, that's another matter. He submitted his resignation as combat instructor. Maya kept her expression neutral. I regret that the commander was injured. That wasn't my intention. Wasn't it? The director's form swirled thoughtfully. You knew exactly what would happen when you applied that technique. You studied Vortanian anatomy, identified the structural weaknesses, and prepared a response specifically for that scenario. Yes, sir, Maya admitted, but only as a defensive measure. The commander chose to attack me. I simply responded. Simply. The director seemed to taste the word. There was nothing simple about what you did, Lieutenant. You manipulated a veteran warrior into a position of vulnerability and exploited it with surgical precision. It was a masterpiece of tactical thinking. Maya remained silent, unsure where this was leading. The Galactic Council has long debated humanity's place in our military structure, Zixfol continued. Your species lacks the obvious physical advantages that have traditionally defined warrior cultures. Today, you demonstrated that those traditional definitions may be incomplete. The director floated to the window, his form spreading out to cover more area. I've received 37 requests for review of Academy policies in the past hour. Questions about admission standards, training protocols, assessment criteria. Your 4-second demonstration has sparked more institutional soul-searching than the past decade of integration efforts. Sir, I only wanted to prove that humans deserve respect as equals, not pity as charity cases. And you succeeded. Zixful turned back to her, perhaps too well. There are those who now see humanity as a threat, a species that can turn weakness into strength, that can defeat superior opponents through guile and preparation, that makes some beings nervous. Maya leaned forward, with respect. Sir, that's exactly what military training is supposed to do. Take raw potential and refine it into capability. The fact that human potential looks different doesn't make it less valuable. Well said. The director's form brightened slightly, which brings me to my decision. Your application to the Advanced Combat Program is approved. You'll be the first human admitted. Maya's heart leaped, but she kept her composure. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet, Zixful warned. You've opened a door, Lieutenant Chen, but walking through it will be harder than opening it. Every species in that program will be watching you, testing you, looking for any sign of weakness. Some will want you to succeed to validate changing perspectives. Others will want you to fail to preserve the status quo. I understand, sir. I'm ready for the challenge. I believe you are. The director's mental voice carried something that might have been approval. Your actions today will be studied and debated for years to come. The footage is already being analyzed by military theorists across the galaxy. The Chen maneuver, they're calling it. Maya couldn't suppress a small smile. I just hope it leads to better understanding between species, sir. We all have strengths and weaknesses. The key is learning to work together, to complement each other rather than competing for dominance. Wisdom beyond your years, Lieutenant. Dismissed. As Maya left the director's office, she found a crowd waiting in the corridor. Humans and aliens alike had gathered, some offering congratulations, others simply staring with newfound respect. Among them was a Vortanian cadet who stepped forward hesitantly. Lieutenant Chen, the cadet said, his scales shifting to a color Maya had learned indicated humility. I am Krexelin, nephew of Commander Krextar. I wanted to apologize for my uncle's behavior and to thank you. Maya blinked in surprise. Thank me. For showing us that strength has many forms, Krexelin explained. My people have grown complacent, believing our physical power made us superior. You've reminded us that true strength comes from continuous growth and adaptation. My uncle needed to learn that lesson, even if the method was painful. The crowd parted as more aliens pressed forward, each wanting to speak with the human who had changed everything in 4 seconds. Maya realized that this was just the beginning. The real work of integration, of building mutual respect and understanding, would take years. But for the first time since arriving at the academy, she felt hope. Humanity had earned its place not through pity or politics, but through demonstrated capability. They would face challenges, certainly. There would be those who resented the change, who would work to undermine human advancement. That was fine. Humans had faced challenges before. They had evolved on a planet that tried to kill them with predators, diseases, and natural disasters. They had survived ice ages and risen from the ashes of their own conflicts. They had reached for the stars with nothing but determination and ingenuity. And now, in the vast arena of galactic civilization, they would do what humans had always done: adapt, overcome, and thrive. The news spread through the galactic communications network within hours. Human cadet defeats Vortanian commander in combat trial. Academy policies under review after unprecedented demonstration. Humanity's hidden potential revealed. On Earth, the response was electric. Maya Chen became a household name overnight. Her 4-second victory played and replayed on every newsfeed. Military academies across the planet began incorporating her technique into their training programs. More importantly, recruitment for off-world military service skyrocketed. But perhaps the most significant change came in the quiet moments between species at the academy. Conversations that had once been condescending became curious. Training partnerships that had been reluctantly assigned became eagerly sought. The fundamental question had shifted from, "What can't humans do?" to "What else can humans do that we haven't imagined?" In her quarters that night, Maya sat with her fellow humans, sharing a meal and processing the day's events. The protein cubes tasted the same as always, but somehow the atmosphere was different. The weight of being perpetual underdogs had lifted, replaced by the responsibility of being pioneers. "You know what the irony is," Thornfield said, breaking a comfortable silence. "Krextar was right about one thing. Humans don't have natural weapons or armor. We never evolved them because we evolved something better. The ability to turn anything into a weapon, to make armor out of whatever's available. And most importantly," added Okafor, "the ability to see strength in what others call weakness. That's what you showed them today, Maya. Not that humans can fight, but that humans can think." Kim looked up from his data pad, where he had been analyzing the footage for the 100th time. "The applications are staggering. If we can get more humans into advanced programs, cross-training with other species, sharing techniques and perspectives, the tactical innovations could revolutionize galactic warfare." "Let's hope it revolutionizes galactic peace instead," Maya said softly. "The best victory is the battle you never have to fight." As the artificial night cycle began on Kepler Prime Military Academy, 7 different species were reviewing human martial arts techniques. 12 military theorists were drafting papers on asymmetric warfare and species integration. And in the medical bay, Commander Krextar stared at his healing wrist and contemplated the cost of prideful assumptions. The galaxy had learned an important lesson: never underestimate humanity. They might not have fangs or claws or natural armor, but they had something far more dangerous: the ability to turn any weakness into strength, any disadvantage into opportunity. And that, as the galaxy was beginning to understand, was the most powerful weapon of all.